This is I Dare You with me, Francesca Escoto, your host, where professional women over 40 get the courage to embark on a new adventure. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us again. I hope that we are continuing to bring you inspiration and encouragement to do the thing that you're meant to do. Today, our guest is Michelle Hayward, and I'm super excited that she is with us. We met some years ago at this point through the work that I was doing with Black and Brown founders. And she came into the fold as one of the entrepreneurs that we helped grow. And so she's here to talk about her story, her journey as an entrepreneur, helping other women. So Michelle, hello and welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited. I'm excited to have this conversation today, especially with you.
Oh, I take that as a hug. It feels yummy. Let's talk about the work that you do. And I think it's a good starting point because I know it wasn't easy, and I know it's still not easy as a Black woman in tech or in a technical field. That's part of my world, right? So yes, I'm a serial entrepreneur and all those things, but one of the areas is information technology. I manage software implementations for government agencies, and I know what it's like to be in that world. So tell me about like what got into you that you decided I'm gonna take this on.
Oh man. What made me take this on? It seemed easier than what I was doing. So just long story short, my background is actually civil engineering, and I wasn't on the design side. I was on the construction management side. So for over a decade, I traveled the US and I was on the ground, literally in a white pickup truck, driving through, soybean fields or cattle ranches, helping literally build the power grid, substation, transmission lines, telecommunications. And in doing that with one of, or some of the largest architecture, engineering, construction firms, or AEC for short, everybody like, that's really long. We just say AEC for short. I was the only Black woman I ever worked with in the industry on the ground. Like there were some engineers and others that I engaged with, whether it was with my former employer or sometimes with a client. Let me take the only one time with the client. That were and our clients were utility companies. So your electric company would be our clients. And so it led me to try to figure out a few things. Number one, I didn't think I was doing well in my career. Like I wasn't where I wanted to be. And so I started reaching out to other Black women and Latinas that I knew that were engineers and scientists. And they were like, wow, you're doing really well. I was like, what do you mean? And they're telling me these horrible stories and how they've been let go and their treatment and being passed over for promotions. And I had access to executives, even though I would be in the middle of nowhere in Texas, South Texas, somewhere with no cell phone service. They would be in the office and they still wouldn't have as much access to executives as I did. And so in that time, what came about was what is now Positive Hire, and really focusing on how to retain experience, Black, Latina, and Indigenous women in STEM being science, tech, engineering, and math or / data, because my data women, they like,
where's data?
Data, but, and I like, good, Michelle, you're getting better at it, but we got to work on this more. And that's really what's the passion. And a lot of people focus when they hear STEM, they think K through 12. They think college. Oftentimes they think when they meet professionals like you and I, because you have an engineering degree as well, we have made it to the promised land. Like you're making so much money, but not understanding the cultural barriers we go in, especially as women of color, that we have to battle every day. And so that is really what we focus on here at Positive Hire, because and we don't start early career. Like I focus on 10 plus years, and people like 10 plus years, why? I said, because after 20 years, there are only 30% of women still in engineering, 30%. Between 10 and 20 years of experience, between year 10 and 20, 40% of women engineers leave the profession. The biggest drop is between 10 and 20 years. They lose 40% of us. You're an anomaly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Did not know that statistic. Why? Why are they leaving?
One of the reasons is lack of career advancement. They cannot get promotions. They are training their new boss. They've been passed a promotion 2 or 3 times. Like I tell, like after the second time, leave. And it's really, that's the first thing. The next one is work-life balance, and there's no such thing. But oftentimes when you have kids, and if you're at our age, we might be a little bit, we got a little bit of gray hair. We're caregivers to our elders, however that may be, whether they're blood relatives or, in the neighborhood, everybody related.
Yeah.
And so there are other things that are trying to balance, and the workplace is generally not set up for women. So those are 2 of the main reasons why we're seeing women leave. But it also drives really down to the culture of organizations, meaning we want women here, but you don't change your benefits to support women. You don't change your workday.
Right.
You're telling people to come back in the office. Why? I have school pickup. And I can do a call from the car, and I don't have to be in the office, because now all we do is go in the office. People are so like, yeah, I just go to my cube or in my office and just get on the conference call.
Correct. The world is changing. The role of women for a long time, especially before the pandemic, the role of women in corporate America was match men, right? This is how men do it. And so if you want to play, you got to do it that way. Then suddenly the pandemic comes along and men can do the thing that women do, right? Or do the thing that women do. And now it's okay. Now it's okay to work from home on any given day. Now flexibility is sexy again, and all this other stuff. And so sometimes I wonder if this is why I am all about side hustles and entrepreneurship. Because when you create a business, you can stay in STEM, right? Yep. But in your own way. You can participate in the industry, but create the kind of work environment that is conducive to the kind of life that you want to live and that you want to offer to other people. Yep. Entrepreneurship is such, it is such a counterculture opportunity. It's like a revolution in one business. You have the chance to create the world that you want to live in and Absolutely. To offer it to other people through employment. I mean, it is such a powerful tool. Do you find that women in STEM careers are considering entrepreneurship, or are they still wanting to stay in a corporate environment and grow their career that way?
So I want to go back just a sec. Before Positive Hire, there was my idea for entrepreneurs, engineers who are entrepreneurs, and women could not fathom that. And so I was pushing that pre-2017 when I started Positive Hire. Like it was 2015, 2014, I started promoting that. And they were like, they were like, I can't do that. I'm not ready. Like and I'm talking to engineers who analytically, they need things to be safe. They are they're very risk adverse. So but now I'm getting more women who are saying, you know what, I want to do this thing. Will you help me? So I'm seeing more women willing to take that risk, and they're paralleling it. Like you said, they're doing their 9 to 5, and then they're switching over to their 5 to 9. If you know that 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then you work your side business or your side hustle. Back in the day, our moms might have been selling Avon or something like that.
That's right.
And so then they go 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. They work on their business. And so what I'm seeing is more women actually doing that, because you can do consulting, right? That's right. You can get consulting gigs without necessarily going out and staking a flag in having a storefront having a website, you can just put a profile up and not really have your name on it and be able to
Shoot, you could do a Fiverr thing. You know, who knows? Like there's so many ways to put your name out there and throw it in the hat to be considered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I'm seeing more women do that. And what I love about the younger women, back in our days, our parents would have to work a part-time job. Like they get off their regular 9 to 5 and then they go work the night job. Yeah. And so I love the overemployment that some people are doing if they know how to do it right. And sometimes they get caught up because of verification companies on the back end catch them. But that's a whole other discussion. But where they're getting a $150,000 job, and somebody where I get $150,000 job. That's a different conversation. And I'm just made that second one a $75,000 job.
That's right.
And them both at the same time, but they're not trying to advance. They're like, I know how to my schedule. I know how to automate and do the work I can do on both sides and make them work. So I'm seeing women do that too, where it's they call it overemployment because you're working them both at 9 to 5 and you're not doing another 5 to 9. And it helps them, one lays them off. Hopefully the other one doesn't, but there have been some women that have been laid off from both. Like, hey, I got money stacked for 3 years, so I'm good.
That's right. That's right.
So I'm seeing it different ways.
And you've probably heard me say this before, but your employer is your first angel investor. So if you are in a position where you can be overemployed for a year, that's all money that in one way or another can help you then feel more stable, more confident about launching a thing at some point in the future. So definitely I can see that being an important way or a tool for people who are considering entrepreneurship but need more stability. They need something safer to move forward. So that's pretty cool. Now, talk to me about you making that transition yourself into entrepreneurship. And I don't know, what was that like?
I started a couple businesses while I was still working. Like I said, the entrepreneur. They weren't working out. Like the audience I had was like, no, we don't want to do this thing. And I didn't really want to do career coaching at the time. What happened was I worked in AEC. We didn't have a contract. And so I got put on what's called standby or furlough. So if you know furlough, we call it standby for AEC. And so I could have stayed with the company. Like I knew to pick up the phone and call people. I was like, nah, I'm gonna let them go ahead and lay me off. They laid me off. And I just decided never to go back. But while I was on furlough, because I was on furlough for 3 months, I came up with the idea for Positive Hire. And initially the idea was, what if there was a glass door for women of color in STEM, wherein we talk about our heritage, we talk about our skin color and our hair and how people react, because on Glassdoor, I can't tell if the 2 or 22 people that are given low ratings, unless they say how they identify, or and if that's true, how do they really identify? And I wanted to be able to really capture our experiences because they're so unique and different, especially in white male dominated spaces.
Okay, so then you had the cushion of 3 months, whatever that is, which allowed you to then organize whatever you needed in your world to be able to not go back. Yes. And in that time frame, you create Positive Hire, this place where people can come in and have real conversations that are pertinent or relevant to women of color in STEM. Yes. And did you make $1?
Did I make $1? Actually, I made a few hundred. So what had happened was I actually posted my first virtual summit in 2017. Okay. And so we still host virtual. And so it wasn't women of color, it was women in STEM in 2017. And it was right when the movie Hidden Figures dropped. So if you hadn't seen the movie Hidden Figures, about Black women that worked at NASA, 3 Black women specifically, and their experiences working there. And it wasn't all true from the movie, but it was close enough, I guess. But I really started from hosting that, and I made money from that summit. And so I was able to leverage that, to gain some information, like what did really women really want, and that also helped me. So right before I left, because I left in March, I hosted the summit in right the month before in February. So that was just like, okay, I'm on to something. And it wasn't in the thousands. I would say I was 100 there. I made a few $100s, but it was worth it. I'm trying to think, what else did I sell that year? For that far back. But I did have some cushion from the company because I had a whole lot. I had a few hundred hours of PTO, personal time off. So I got like 25 grand in total. And I sold my house a couple years ago, so I didn't have a mortgage. My mom let me move back home because it was supposed to be temporary.
Yeah.
So
for a moment.
So but it ended up working out because COVID came along eventually. But different things have happened along the journey for me. But I wish I would have focused. I wouldn't say I did not focus on generating revenue. I absolutely did. I don't think I felt like, why aren't people buying the first time? And sales is a process now. So you're going to launch it the first time and nobody going to see it. Nobody knew about Uber the first 50,000 times.
That's right. That's right.
Second time, the third time, by the seventh time, you might decide, I've tweaked it enough. Let me let this go. This isn't going to sell. And so I think if I had been more consistent, but also me not knowing what to sell, because I didn't want to go do career coaching, right? But I wanted to be able to support women. And so I probably needed to partner more with career coaches because I had the audience that they are looking for. So I still get a lot of career coaches that want to work with Positive Hire because I built an audience. And so it's a way for them to easily be able to generate, because building an audience is what generally takes the time and the money, the time and resources to get. So I think I would definitely have leveraged what I had a little bit better. And I built, at the time we had Periscope. So I built an audience.
I remember
Black women in France working at Apple.
Wow.
Yeah, so I had a global reach. And so it was really interesting that I didn't understand as an engineer and not quite yet as the salesperson you have to be as a founder to leverage it. So, but that's what Black and Brown helps with too.
Talk to me about that, the salesperson that you have to be as a founder. And let me ask you the question this way. In hindsight, what was the most important skill that helped you start your business?
To start my business, I would say just skill, being able to build community. I would say that has been the best skill for me, is being able to build community.
And what does that mean, being able to build community? What did that look like? Was it, you tell me.
So building an email list. So I could get people that would show up for my live streams. They would show up for webinars. They would engage. They would share my broadcast with and tweet whatever with those in their network. And so to me, that spoke volumes about had that particular B2C audience. Specifically. And so to me, that was the one skill that helped me that a lot of people didn't have, that it took them longer to know their audience. Yeah.
And how did you do it? How did you build community? How did you collect those emails?
Back then it was good old MailChimp, right? You gotta leverage the free MailChimp back then. But I utilized social. So because Periscope was so powerful back then, and I miss those days. And it was really easy to get people to jump on because it was so novel, and just being able to engage. That was a huge part. Like, hey, go grab this one thing, or I'll send you an email when I go live. And so those are the things to let them know. I literally picked up a mentee from my Periscope. She had an intern that was working at her nonprofit. She's in IT. So she's a DevOps engineer. And so for her nonprofit, she would have an intern. The intern would text her and say, hey, Michelle's on live. And she would get on Twitter She literally met me in person in 2018 in Atlanta at a Black in Tech event. And she was like, I know you. I was like, oh, where did we meet? She said, I look at your Twitter lives. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. And everything you say, like she was within her first 5 years, I'm experiencing now. And she's like, so if you ever need a place to stay in Atlanta, you can stay with me.
You're like, yes.
Free places to stay that are safe as well.
Yeah.
But it was really but when I say how powerful Periscope was, live streaming was at the time, those were the things that were happening. And so leveraging just a free everything, all of those added up over time.
Mm-hmm. So leveraging, so you only needed, and I'm oversimplifying, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you only really needed to build that community at first. That was your focus to start.
Yeah.
And you could use free tools to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important because people listening sometimes overcomplicate things and they're like, I need to patent this idea and I need to, do XYZ and I need an office. And suddenly the budget to get started is $55,000. And you don't. You need your phone. You need your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the free stuff that comes with it.
Exactly. And if nothing else, even if, let's say your cell phone service gets turned off, do you have a local library that you can go to during the day that may have a quiet room or a study room that you can get for free?
That's right.
That you can go to leverage that. Because trust me, my sister and her kids all had library cards. I would just stack up because you can only have a room for 2 hours. I would have a room for 6 because I would just book the room to their library. I didn't live in the same county they lived in.
Yeah.
But it was like, what can you, and I live in a small rural town in South Carolina, so they're an hour away. And so how do you stack things to work to your betterment? How to, and so understanding, like you get real savvy as a founder when you like, I only have this $25,000, how far can it go? But you still, you can tell from my face, I don't miss meals. And so.
What? It's visible? You can tell?
I need a fuel for my car insurance and maintenance. So like, how can I get this 25, at least from PTO to last, like how can I make that work? And so it's really important. You become strategic, you become scrappy, you become resourceful. And sometimes it's like, I had like 3 free Canva accounts. Like if somebody said something was free, Michelle was on it like, hey, just use your Gmail account, pay for your URL, and then you can match your free Gmail account as a business account. Get a free company. Like we stacked up and learn how to integrate stuff. Get a free Zoom. Zoom is still 40 minutes for free. But it was those things that once you got into an entrepreneur type community, that we'd be sharing different tactics and tools.
Absolutely.
I ended up on the online marketing side, and I would tell you they focus so heavily on marketing and nobody's talking sales. And so I had to find my way out of a space that was only focused on waiting for a sale to come to a place where I was doing outbound sales. And so I will tell you now, if you can do that sooner than later, leveraging your network. Everybody's like, nobody knows my business name. I said, but how many people know you? Let's pick up that phone again.
That's right. Same phone. And I want to highlight that you were on a $25,000 budget because you chose not to go back to work. Exactly. So you were able to do this full time with a $25,000 budget, right? And you were able to make it happen even with those parameters, right? So those of us that do the job and do the business have a longer runway, and basically that runway is as long as you stay in your job, you can be, feeding or fueling that business until that business is at the point that you want it to be in order to make that jump. And everybody's circumstance is different. Don't nobody be calling us later saying, oh, but you get to live with your mom. My mama lives with me, which is my situation. Yeah, I can't go live with my mom. But I also have 3 kids, and what if the four of us gonna do moving into someone else's house, right? But those are the circumstances that we each manage. And
Exactly.
those are the ways in which we create our path and work from it. I don't have the desire necessarily to do it X way. I want to do it because it aligns with me and my goals. I want to do it this way. But back to the original point that we made early on in our conversation, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. You get to
Exactly.
create that. I'm sure that you had to forgo certain lifestyle things or whatever to go live with mama, right?
Yep.
But the benefits outweighed, right? And so you're living a life that is where you want to be right now.
Absolutely. And I just want to preface it that we all make decisions and sacrifices, figure
That's
out
right.
what works best for you. It is very interesting. I hear from a lot of moms that my children need this. My mom started her business when I was 5 years old. And so seeing her grow a business as a child, it became very normal that we were going to live without something. We may not have a home landline, or we didn't have cable TV, but certain things that I could say my mom had her own business. But it also allowed me to do certain things as well, which was I traveled extensively. So if it's 30 days in a month when I was in corporate, I was home for 5. So my nieces and nephews didn't see me. And when I came home, it was completely different. I was there every day or every other, every week or whatever. At the point, my youngest niece saw me running a business. She's had a slime business she started in elementary school. She's had as a lip gloss business she had in middle school, elementary, and now she has her own baking business and she's pitching companies on Instagram for brand deals at 15, 16. And so what you will teach your children looks completely different, whether you're an employee or entrepreneur. So let them sometimes go on that ride with you. When you said you had 3 children, like, oh, that's 3 employees, but that's what my mom called us. She had 5 kids, so she had 3 employees.
That's right. Oh, you want me to pay for what? Okay.
Yeah, I need to come in here and my niece, the one that started on business, she's like, Aunt Shell, I want to work for you. I said, okay, what you want? She said, I don't want to help. I only want to do the periscopes. I said, what you want? Like, she told me she was going to work for me and what her job was going to be.
You wrote her job description.
And so it's really, really important that we often think in that negative impact of children, but think about what's the positive that they can learn and what can happen.
Absolutely.
And then
and the impact that we have in our families, the world is changing, societal norms around gender roles are changing. And in the process, though, I think that, and this might seem like digressing, but hear me out. I think that we're also redesigning men's roles. And so in that conversation among the genders, I think that there's an opportunity also for us to simply create a new balance, a new way, right? And so children's needs don't change because gender roles change, right? So they still need stability, they still need care, supervision, discipline, love. And I say love in all the ways, right? In the ways that you show it, but in the ways that you feel it. So a distant parent or an absent parent is an absent parent today and in the 1950s, right? Like that doesn't change. And so the idea that somehow women having businesses or having strong careers is the reason for the downfall of family leaves men out of the equation completely, as if they have nothing to contribute to the conversation, right? And I think part of this too is, to your point, what do we bring to the family in a way that we couldn't before because we didn't provide? How is that changing the standard of living? How is that helping families lift out of poverty, especially those single parent homes, primarily women and women of color, right? Like, how can we then be agents of change for ourselves and for our communities through these initiatives? Like, Come on, people.
I love it. I absolutely agree. I think it's really good for boys to see their mothers run businesses. It gives them a different vantage point of the power that women have and how women engage with other people. And we say this like, oh, mom's on the phone, like shh, because you know when you have to talk to a big collector or somebody, the voice changes, and they see that engagement and they see in you winning deals or losing deals. It does something for them as well. And I say that because the niece that started her own business, her younger brother, how he looks at women and he talks about women is really, really interesting. He used to be a Roblox kid. And I remember, and he did Roblox, and then he went to Fortnite. And I remember he had a Fortnite avatar that was a woman. I got upset, like, why do you have a woman? And he goes, because women do it better. I'm like, good answer, my bad.
Go on.
Exactly. Take all of these seats. Yeah. And so it's really important that we show them a different way to look at women, because inherently, in order to change how men think, you have to start with them in childhood when they're little younger boys. And moving forward, even like my middle nephew saying, oh, my niece throws like a girl. I said, she is a girl. Right. And it doesn't calculate like, so how is she supposed to throw? They don't have an answer. And so I said, she's going to throw like a girl because she says she is a girl. You throw like a what? A boy. Why do you throw? Because I am a boy. Okay, so how she's supposed? And so having these conversations when they're younger, it helps them understand like that you're trying to be mean about something that makes sense. And so for them,
so you want her to throw like a boy. Got it. Yeah. That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's really good. I love what I've seen have been being home has been able for me to do, at least for two of my nieces and two of my nephews being home in the last 7 years or thereabouts, mine, even including COVID, because I had that experience with them because I was always traveling for work. So that was another reason to leave. I was on the road a lot of the time, but in leveraging your day job, I had a whole lot of hotel points that I've leveraged. So I'm down to my last 45,000 Hilton points. So if anybody wants to donate me some Hilton points, what's up? And I would gladly take some air miles too. And those are things that my employer that I was able to retain. Like we always were able to, but when I walked out the door, I already had those accounts. So there are certain perks, certifications that you can get, lifetime membership. Like I wish I would have done a lifetime membership to American Society of Civil Engineers, National Society of Black Engineers. Like get those lifetimes, because $1,200 to them is not a lot of money.
Right.
Especially if I was at a global company, multi-billion, many billions of dollars. They just sign off on stuff like, oh, who cares about that?
Whatever. And if you're performing, they're like, we want to keep you happy. Go for it. Do the thing.
Exactly. So get your PVP, whatever certifications you think you need, just get those now, because you can leverage them, whether you're in consulting, you're in software or SaaS or different startups, probably like thinking AI. I'm not thinking AI. But wherever you want to land, just think about the things that have somewhat of a broader reach that you can leverage in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let's pause here and go back to starting, right? Okay. Where did the motivation come from? Let me ask the question this way. What was the scariest thing that you did to start?
Scariest thing I did to start. What was the scary?
Fear you had to overcome to actually start.
And this was, and I don't know when is starting, right?
That's a good one.
Yeah, because I'm 7 years in, and like to me, starting, you're always starting in startup.
Always starting.
And so I would say the scariest thing for me is when I decided and knew I needed to sell B2B. I didn't want to talk to those people. I had been through so much trauma in corporate spaces with white people. I needed to sell that I needed to go back and sell to them. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to stay in my comfort with my community. but my
Yeah.
community wasn't always financially in a place to buy. They may not emotionally and mentally been in a place to buy. And so how could I then be able to sell for me to be around long enough to be able to serve
Yes.
them and to meet the mission of positive hire, mission and vision of positive hire. And so that was a struggle for me in 2018 when I started that. But that was the biggest thing for me, was really overcoming, because I knew this in 2017. I did a pre-accelerate, like, hey, you need to sell B2B. I pushed that off for 6 to 8 months. And then 2018, I started having those conversations and really getting a lot of help, more so in 2019, through with you and some others in the tech startup space. So that was really huge for me. But yeah, that was the biggest struggle for me, was saying I got to sell B2B. And I'm not saying it's easier today, but it took me too long. I think I would have been better off had I just started 2017, saying, okay, when I was told in the summer 2017, I needed to sell B2B, and just sucking it up and going to sell B2B.
So then let me ask you this. What happened when you did the thing?
I had bigger contracts. So, instead of hundreds of dollars, you're looking at $20,000 a contract. My marketing also needed to change. So I wasn't on Periscope. It faded out, eventually. Luckily, LinkedIn had always been my second favorite social media platform. So I knew how to leverage it. I knew GDPR was coming in 2018. So I downloaded all 2,500, 2,800 of my LinkedIn connections, because your email address was given to us back then.
Yes, yes, it was.
It was literally things like that. I was able to harness and figure out how to make those changes and pivot. That took longer, but I knew I had to do it. And I did my first B2B sales call in 2018. It was an inbound lead. It was an inbound lead. I still remember, it's a nonprofit, a tech nonprofit in Seattle, Washington. I can't remember the name, but they were an inbound lead looking for recruiting services in 2018.
And so when you did the thing that you were avoiding out of, I'm gonna say fear of, all the, or a trauma reaction to the thing, right? To the circumstance. But when you did it, your profits went up.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And what did you learn in the process? How did you do?
I didn't do the best that I could have. Oh my God, what's that 2018, 2019? I know I got a lead from a Black and Brown founder at the event. I got a lead to like a global tire company, because one of the founders' wife was an executive there. And like literally got it connected to the chief human resource officer. It was not a cold call. Like those things, like looking back now, I was not ready for, but they came and I took the call anyway. And so it was like, oh shit, I need help. It's a crazier thing. Before I got into construction, I was an inside sales engineer, but everything was inbound. And so now I'm trying to have these full conversations with executives, and I don't know the language. I don't know how to frame the conversations. I don't know what questions to ask. I don't understand follow-up. So it's all of these things about sales that I needed to fundamentally understand. And so those, me not being ready, meant I still took the calls and opportunities, but I knew how to learn that's when you learn your gaps. Sometimes people want you to go do things, and as an engineer, I need the steps. What's the process? And so I started looking for the steps in the process and Googling and trying to piecemeal it together and hiring a VA to do outbound cold email reach and things like that. But it was always another scary step to take out of my comfort zone in an industry, because now I'm talking to human resource officers, where before, if you give me a chief engineering officer, we could talk all day.
Right.
So, a lot of branding, marketing, and sales that I needed to understand in order to leverage what I had. And to this day, I remember when I told that chief human resource officer what we did, like, oh, I have a community of women, I teach them this. He's like, oh, you do the full package. And me not understanding what he meant was I had talent that they could recruit from. I trained the talent, which means I was doing leadership and professional development. And I provided a resource for me to sell that service to corporations. I did not understand how valuable that was in 2018 when I had that sales call. And I had his cell phone number. I didn't have his office. I had his cell phone number. And so now I'm sitting like, I could have had $250,000 by now from this one company. And I wasn't ready. And so sometimes the opportunity is going to come and you're going to suck at one and figure out how to do it for the next one.
And then you learn. And then exactly. You learn. And you can always go back to that person and be like, hey, I got a full package now. And I know. Right? Because a no today is not a no forever. And a partial yes, 10,000 instead of 50,000 is still 10,000 more than I had yesterday. So it's okay to make incremental sales. It's okay to suck at it a little bit while you figure it out and to get better over time. Because ultimately you're making a difference. You're doing the thing that you set out to do. You're fulfilling that purpose and you're making some money, right? So can things get better? They can. Every time. They can always get better. The contract can always be sweeter, right? But in the process, you are fulfilling your purpose, you're making some money, and so you're winning. Everybody's winning in that situation. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so what does it take to show up even when you're not ready?
Swallow your nerves. They might get caught in your throat. Just clear your throat and keep having a conversation.
Yeah.
Nothing else. You want to listen to what the other person is saying and ask questions about what. So you say you have an issue retaining Latinas. Why do you say that? And they'll tell you the data. Well, how did you collect that data? They'll tell you that. Can you tell me which locations or roles that you're seeing the most need, where you're having the biggest gap or issue? And so you're just listening. You're just don't make it about sales. I had to change it to having a conversation, because sometimes, honestly, I do not want to work with these people. It's like a date. Especially
when you hear the answers, especially when you hear the answers to those questions, you're like, oh, I see.
Exactly. So I'm just reframing now as to having a conversation. Having gotten a lot of help through better understanding sales and being able to do sales, but I do it every day, and I will do it scared before I not do it, because the difference between not doing it and doing it is really being able to serve the women that I want to serve and that I'm here to serve. And so that has to happen.
I love what you said. I do it scared.
Yeah.
And that's my whole thing about courage, and the reason why I dare you, because I dare people to do the scary thing. Because the idea of being fearless is for the birds. Ain't nobody fearless. I hope you're not fearless. I hope you're scared of incoming traffic and tall buildings. Okay, like don't jump off the roof.
Exactly.
So the thing is not to be fearless, is to be courageous and to be brave and to practice that muscle. Like you said, it's about, you feel the knot in your throat, you take a moment, you drink some water, you clear your throat, and then you move forward. It's the biochemistry of fear is real, but it's manageable. It's manageable. You can be in control of your fear. It's a skill that is learned, and that it's a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I posted on, for those of you that are over on Old Book, aka Facebook, I posted, we have our fall virtual summit coming up, and I'm looking for sponsors. So I've been cold emailing, built a list of 100 target sponsors,
nice.
Leads. And I emailed out 60, and immediately I got one response back that was a no. That's okay.
That's
and
okay.
somebody, why is it okay? I said, because whenever I get a no, I know a yes is coming.
Yeah.
24 hours later, I got a yes, I am the correct person.
Yeah.
But what happens is if I didn't send out those 60 emails scared, I wouldn't have gotten a no that also got me that same email that got me a yes. And so that action, imperfect action, you're going to take time and time again. But if you don't take action and you're waiting for perfection, guess what happens? Your time, your money, or whatever may run out and the market may shift. And now you're trying to figure out, oh, what do they want now in the market? And you've not talked to anybody because you're working on building something that's to be perfect for a market now that's changed.
Yeah. And let's talk about that. Let's pause there for a second. How many clients, all right, let's just say your first $50,000.
Okay.
How many clients did it take to get there?
Oh man, 50,000? Seems like a lot. We do stuff on the B2C side too. And so the B2C side, I would say 10.
But it's only 10.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot that goes into those 10 though, right?
Oh, absolutely, right? So you might have had to talk to 100 or 200 people to find those 10. My point is that you don't need, you know, again, the ideas that people have about building a business or even a side hustle, right? Is that, oh, I need like millions of views in my post, like it has to go viral. Or I have to have, I don't know, 100 companies as clients or something. You can't even, as a single person, you probably cannot handle that many anyway, right? And if you price your work correctly, and if you build something that plays on your strengths, you can find 10 clients.
Exactly. Absolutely. And again,
and that's your B2C, because on the B2B side, right, when you finally crossed that fear hump and you did the B2B thing, then your profits went up, and that those 50,000 probably came faster.
Oh yeah, that's much faster, because on the B2B side, everything comes with a comma. It's not a $27 ticket to a virtual summit. Right. It's there, you know, let's say on the low end is 3,000. Let's just say on the low end is 3,000. I mean, I've done one sale with a company that's 30,000. Right. And so and you're like, hold up, that like, yeah, if I can just do 30,000, that's just 2 B2B customers, where it took me 10 or so B2C customers to get to 50. And so the path is a little bit different, but it is so worth it to go at it and just test it. Like we're always testing, but yeah, it absolutely is different. And for anybody that doesn't understand the lingo, B2C is business to customer and B2B is business to business. So when you sell to customers, that's more of a retail experience where they might be buying, I don't know, when you go into a store, you're buying as a customer from a business. When you are buying as a business, maybe you're getting, I don't know, furniture for your office or something. That's more of a B2B transaction, which tend to be bigger dollars because the services that businesses require tend to be more comprehensive than someone just walking into a storefront. So that's the difference between the two. And there's a lot that goes into that. We can have those conversations in community. So, you know, that's another side talk. Okay. Tell me, what is your next big goal? My next big goal. Right now we actually, so I've said we were a tech company without any technology for years. I remember those days you were trying to build out your product and doing all that. And so now we have a product, and so we're focused on our first 10 customers for our software. Like that's all I spend the day doing. Well, that is sponsorship. But my virtual summit is to bring in leads from the target customers for the software. And so everything I'm doing is really driving to get more leads to to get our first 10 customers. Well, I've identified our first customer. They just don't know it yet. And
Hey,
so exactly. So they came to it came about locally. And so I'm working on that. But it's really, really that's all I do. That's my only goal, is to get our first 10 customers for the software. Like, I guess our first customer for the software, but that's the goal, is really driving towards that. And so we have, it's called pH Balance. It's a talent management system specifically for the architecture, engineering, construction industry.
oh, back in your
It is,
world.
yeah, exactly. And it's helping them retain talent, and how
Mhm.
they build out project teams, and how do we help them remove bias in assigning projects. Because guess who doesn't get assigned to projects? When the managers do it, I wonder, "Oh, have you figured it out?" Yeah, exactly. And so it helps retain that. Remember, I told you one of the main reasons women leave is because lack of career advancement. And
Mhm.
so take some of the power away from
Yes.
people making those decisions and providing it back to the individual employee.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so before we end, what was the last book you read?
Book.
She's like, I don't do that.
So this is me in books. I read enough to get what I want to out of the book.
Okay.
Um, I read way more probably articles and white papers.
Okay, awesome. All
Yeah,
right, I'll
it's
take that. What was the last thing you read that was like, aha, this was good?
there is, what is the name? It's some research on how the numbers for women in architecture, engineering, construction industry. I cannot remember the name of the white paper, but it breaks down
Okay.
exactly like where women are, especially by race, what percentages we start out at graduation that go into industry, and then where we are at 0 to 3, 10 years, 20 years. And actually I spoke to is somebody's thesis,
Mm-hmm.
dissertation, a woman's dissertation, as to how to retain the 5 steps or 5 ways to retain women engineers. Like that was, again, and somebody introduced me to the to now PhD in engineering, and so it was really interesting looking at her research.
Okay.
So that was been the most gratifying piece of research that I've read. Somebody's dissertation about me. Somebody's dissertation of, it's like, this
Right.
is my life on the table.
My life on your paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so
But
I
I
propose,
appreciate that, Michelle. I'll tell you why, because I think that we also at times assume, A, that we're alone. Nobody
mhm,
else is thinking about this. Nobody else can help me. Nobody has insight to provide into this journey. And that's not true. The world is kind of big, and chances are you are not the first or the last to be doing the thing. Okay. So there is resources out there. But I also love that the person was probably willing to have that conversation and eager to talk about their research and be like, okay, how can we partner? Can we collaborate? Right? Like, there are resources. You don't have to do it alone. And when we expose ourselves to the work of other people, instead of feeling the fear of they're gonna steal my idea, ain't nobody trying to do what you're trying to do. Like, you know, people are unique and they show up unique to the work that they do. And for that lady, it was a PhD dissertation, and for you, is software. And two people can play in the same space doing different things, solving the same problem from different angles. So,
absolutely.
well, I want to be mindful of time. I know that you have other things coming up. Thank you so much for this conversation. Loved it. I want to bring you back at another time after you do your summit and your software launches, and we can talk about that. That'll be a fun time.
Absolutely. I would definitely love to come back to have that conversation.
All right. Well, Michelle, thank you again. And hug, hug. I'll have to come to South Carolina to see you.
Or we could meet in North Florida.
Oh, we can, you know what? the beach is here, so come on down.
Exactly. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Yes. Thank you, Michelle.